In the fish tanks on our farm, Joe McGonigal is using transgenics to create a salmon that grows extra fast for your dining pleasure.
So down here in this tank, we have transgenic fish that are a year old. During this period of their lives, they're growing about 4 to 6 times faster than standard salmon grow. We can take this out and we can compare it with a standard non-transgenic salmon, and you can take a look and see how they compare, both for size and for condition.
After just 1 year's growth, Joe's salmon are 4 times larger than non-GM salmon of the same age.
Well, what we have are 2 same-age fish. The larger one, as you can see, is the transgenic that we've just taken out of the tank. These fish are virtually identical, except for one has a transgene. It grows faster during this first year of life.
Traditionally, a salmon only grows in warm water. But as soon as the water gets cold in winter, the gene controlling the salmon's growth switches off, and the fish stops growing. Not anymore. Joe takes the genetic switch which controls growth from another species of fish that grows in cold water. He inserts that into the salmon egg. The presence of this genetic switch means the new salmon now grows all year round, whatever the water temperature.
Joe really does seem to love his fish.
As you can see here, these are beautiful fish. There's virtually nothing wrong with them in any way. They're streamlined, they're torpedo-shaped. There is virtually no deformity. They look exactly like conventional fish. This is not like a bodybuilder situation or people using steroids in order to bulk up. These fish are essentially producing what they need internally under their own genetic control.
Joe sees himself as a farmer of the future. He really seems to believe that using transgenics to create these super salmon could make salmon farming less damaging to the environment and protect the few remaining stocks of wild salmon.
You can reduce the environmental footprint of conventional salmon farming in a couple of ways. One is that these fish are more efficient at feed conversion. They gain about 30% more weight per gram of food they eat compared to conventional salmon, and as a result they also produce about 30% less waste. That waste would otherwise end up in the water column or on the bottom of the ocean.
In each of these trays, Joe's got enough eggs to grow super salmon on an industrial scale.
Each one of these contains about 10,000 eggs, and there's something in the neighborhood of 160 of them. Each one is a unique family, and each one can be bred forward into the future.
But what on earth would happen if one of these monster salmon escaped and swam off to breed with ordinary fish?
The concerns that the transgene is out there and there's no calling it back, you've changed the world forever. Now, in point of fact, the fish are sterile. They can't breed at all. There's no possibility of a transgene that exists in an Atlantic salmon escaping from the species.
So because the salmon are sterile, Joe's certain there's no danger of the gene getting out and causing chaos.
Novelists get paid for imagining those kinds of things. Fish breeders get paid for producing a fish that can provide food into the future without the problems of overharvesting stocks that will frankly disappear if we keep hitting them.
Here on the farm, super salmon aren't the only genetically modified animals that could help save the environment. For our next appointment, we're heading to the pigsty to meet some creatures who could help us out of a sticky situation.
I like bacon as much as the next person, but the amount of pork we eat is causing serious problems. Last year, we killed more than 2 billion pigs, and these creatures provide more dietary protein, more cheaply, to more people than any other animal. But all this consumption comes at a cost.
Animal agriculture is a major consumer of the natural environment. That is, the impacts on the atmosphere, upon water utilization, and in particular, pig agriculture or hog agriculture produces copious amounts of manure.
Manure, it's a natural product, but on an industrial scale, it's a serious environmental pollutant. And poo from pigs is particularly toxic.
Pig manure has a very high level of phosphorus within it from normal diets through normal pigs. And that phosphorus usually is more than is required by crops produced on land fertilized with pig manure.
Pig manure is packed with phosphorus because pigs simply can't digest it. And this excess is causing some serious damage. It runs off into the water supply, causing the overgrowth of algae and killing fish. It seems an impossible problem of biology, but John Phillips has found a way to fix it.
A very simple and effective solution to the environmental problems caused by high phosphorus pig manure found right behind these doors.
To tackle the problem, John has created something he calls the EnviroPig. This animal looks normal, but it's anything but.
These pigs are unlike any other pigs in the world. They're different because they carry a very special gene that allows them to digest all of the phosphorus in their diet. The gene is constructed in the laboratory that we use.
The remarkable thing about the EnviroPigs is that they carry a man-made gene, which John has created from scratch.
One part comes from E. coli bacteria, which produces an enzyme that can break down phosphorus. And the other comes from a mouse, which produces a genetic switch that allows this special enzyme to be made in saliva. These two bits of DNA were combined to form a new compound gene, which was then inserted into a fertilized pig egg. Now every time John's pigs eat and produce saliva, they also make the phosphorus-busting enzyme, helping to make their poo more environmentally friendly.
The aim, ultimately, we think, is that the global environment would be best served if every pig could digest all of its organic phosphorus in its diet the way these pigs do.
So John wants every pig in the world to be an EnviroPig. I think it's an idea with merit, but he's encountered a lot of obstacles.
There are many people out in the community that do have concerns about transgenic changes in animals. And some of these people have gone about intentionally frightening the public about this technology. So we have an uphill battle in terms of people's perceptions. This is an effective way of dealing with a serious environmental problem. It's simple, it can be propagated very rapidly. Any other technology cannot touch this in terms of the rapidity of its application on the farm or the extent of the change that can occur as a result of the technology. Nothing comes close to this.
All over the farm, scientists are discovering that genetic modification is an immensely powerful tool. But it's also a controversial one. Olivia Judson is convinced that we shouldn't be afraid of it.
I personally would much rather eat an organism that has been genetically modified to grow fast than one that has been injected with a lot of hormones to grow fast. I certainly would have no objection to eating an animal that has been genetically modified. I mean, what is a gene? It's an instruction to make a protein. It's not anything mystical.
I think to a lot of people it probably is something mystical.
But it's not. I mean, there is nothing mystical about a gene. We know what it is, we can describe it, we can build them. There is nothing mysterious, and all it does is contain the instruction for making a protein. You know, you add one, you take one away, so what?
But having understood how it works, to then start changing it and meddling with it, is another step, isn't it?
Well, we already have. I mean, nothing in this countryside, in this landscape, is natural. It's been modified by us. We haven't done it precisely, but we certainly have altered which sheep are growing, which grass is growing. We just don't have such a thing as a natural landscape in most of the world. I mean, it's just complete, you know, it's a fantasy. We've created it.
What Giles and so many other people don't seem to appreciate is that genetic engineering is one of the most highly regulated technologies in the world. It's so highly regulated that even when GM could really help save lives, we're not allowed to use it. Absurd.